All right, let's dive right in. If you're building anything with AI, you know that amazing feeling you get from a great prototype. But then comes the hard part. What happens when that prototype has to become a real, reliable product? Today, we're going to tackle the single biggest reason so many AI projects fail: evaluation. We'll break down why the old ways of testing just don't work anymore and lay out a brand new blueprint for success. Let's get into it. First off, let's just take a second to talk about the stakes here. The AI market isn't just growing, it's absolutely exploding. We're looking at a 25-fold increase to almost $5 trillion in the next decade. I mean, that's just a staggering number. With that kind of opportunity on the table, the pressure to get things right is huge. But there's a big, expensive secret that the industry is quietly struggling with. And here it is. Get this. A shocking 70% of AI initiatives never actually make it into production. They get stuck in the lab, they hit a wall, and they just fail. Think about that. That's 7 out of every 10 projects. We're talking billions in wasted money and just countless hours of work going right down the drain. So, what is going on here? Well, it really boils down to this. With old school software, right, the bugs are pretty predictable. You click a button and you know what's supposed to happen. But with generative AI, the errors are sneaky. They're invisible. They're these subtle little flaws in the tone or the logic or the context, things you'd never catch in a million years of standard testing. Not until it's in front of a real customer. And by then, well, it's way too late. So that begs the question, right? If our old playbook is basically useless, what's the real culprit here? It's not just about getting bigger models or throwing more data at the problem. Nope, it goes deeper than that. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how to measure quality in this completely new world. So, to really find the solution, we've got to start by redefining the problem itself. We need a whole new rulebook, a new set of principles for what quality even means, when an AI can generate, a near infinite number of different responses. Okay, so let's get on the same page. What is AI evaluation? It's a systematic assessment, sure, but it's not your classic software testing. Not even close. See, AI is probabilistic, not deterministic. It's unpredictable by nature. It's not a simple if this then that machine. So evaluation is way less about just fixing bugs and much more about steering the AI in the right direction. And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the old world, traditional machine learning. Think of it like a multiple choice test. There's one right answer. It's objective, it's easy to measure. But then you look to the right, generative AI. This is more like an essay question. There are so many ways to write a fantastic answer. Is it helpful? Is it safe? Does it make sense? Answering these subjective questions means we need a totally new playbook. So here's the bottom line. Evaluation is the magic trick here. It's the bridge that lets us take all these fuzzy, subjective ideas like helpfulness or a friendly tone and turn them into actual, concrete, measurable scores. Numbers that a team can look at and say, okay, this is what we need to improve. Okay, so that's the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. How in the world do we actually measure something as subjective as good? Let's pop open the toolbox and take a look. The absolute key concept here is this thing called an evaluator. The best way to think about it is like a recipe or maybe a scorecard. It's the standardized process that takes a raw, messy AI output and turns it into structured, useful feedback, a score, a pass-fail label, and most importantly, the reasoning behind it. This is what lets you compare apples to apples when you're testing different models or prompts. And these evaluators basically come in two main flavors. On the one hand, you have what's called LLM as a judge. This is super cool. You actually use another powerful AI to grade the first AI's work on all those tricky subjective things like tone. On the other hand, you have good old-fashioned code. This is for the stuff that's black and white. You can write a quick script to check if the output contains a banned word, for example, or if it formatted a phone number correctly. It's perfect for those clear-cut rules. Now, using a mix of these evaluators lets you measure this whole spectrum of metrics. And the big takeaway here is that you just can't rely on a single accuracy score anymore. A really strong strategy looks at performance, of course, but you also have to check for fairness, for bias, and for the fundamental quality of the text itself. Is it fluent? Is it logical? And maybe the most important question of all, is it actually factual? All right, so we've got the concepts and we've got the tools. Now let's put it all together into an actionable blueprint. This is a practical framework that pretty much any team can use to build a really robust, continuous evaluation strategy. And the framework is a really straightforward 4-step loop. First step, define success.
Then you build your test data. After that, you implement the actual evaluation. And finally, the crucial step, you automate and improve. It's a continuous cycle, not a one-and-done finish line.
So let's just dig into that a little deeper. First, define success. And I mean really define it. Get your business folks, your tech leads, even your lawyers in the same room and agree on what good looks like before a single line of code gets written. Next, build test data. And please don't just test the easy, happy path stuff. You have to actively try to break it. Throw in weird edge cases and confusing questions, the works. Then, implement evaluation. Use that mix of AI judges and code-based checks to make sure you're covering all your bases. And finally, automate. This can't be something you just do once in a while. It has to be built right into your development pipeline, running constantly, testing every single change.
You know, when you start putting all of this together, something amazing happens. Evaluation stops feeling like a chore. It stops being this bottleneck that slows you down. It actually transforms into your secret weapon, your organization's AI superpower.
And this kicks off this fantastic virtuous cycle. For starters, you save a ton of time and money because you're catching problems before they ever get to your customers. Then, because you can actually prove that your AI is safe and reliable, you build trust across the organization. That trust unlocks bigger, more ambitious projects. And finally, with all the new regulations on the horizon, having this documented, systematic process, well, that's not just good practice anymore. It's going to be absolutely essential for compliance.
So I want to leave you with one final thought that kind of reframes this whole conversation. Right now, everyone seems to be obsessed with the models themselves. Who's got the biggest, the fastest, the most powerful one? But what if we're all looking in the wrong place? What if the best product isn't built by the best model? It's built by the team with the best evaluation. The teams that are going to win in this new era aren't the ones who just have access to the fanciest model. They're the ones who truly master the science of measuring, steering, and constantly improving their systems. That is the real competitive edge. Thanks for watching.